Hi, I'm Kenny Hill with Recovery Hill. Let's properly put out that disclaimer footage. Okay, so let's get into these evolved needs. These evolved needs on the right, there are three different pillars within these evolved needs. The first pillar within the evolved needs is self efficacy. The first point of self efficacy is building competence in establishing standards and objectives and seeking challenge. Here there is perceived purpose and significance, intrinsic worth, and reason for being is becoming tangible. It is within self efficacy that one can begin to try out new experiences and do hard things. Tony Robbins makes the statement that success without fulfillment is failure, speaking to outward societal versions of success versus one's intrinsic sense of success. Now, if you flip that statement around a little bit, the statement remains true. Success without failure lacks fulfillment. I'll say that again. Success without failure lacks fulfillment. It is by pushing the edge of competency. Remember, within the window of tolerance, challenging that edge of competency. It is by pushing the edge of competency that mastery can become attained. Now, I'm not just making this up with window of tolerance stuff and pushing the edge of competency. Dr. Andrew Huberman says errors are the gateway to neuroplasticity. So essentially, errors are the gateway to growth and expansion. And we all know this. In the late 70s, Dr. Albert Bandura developed the 4 factors of self efficacy. Now, according to Dr. Bandura, mastery was the first factor. Mastery can be developed with a lot of practice. There is research done by a guy named Cohen, I believe, this is off of memory, that talked about the 85% rule. Roughly, the best way to learn something is to have an 85% success rate initially. The 15% failure rate is very important to have so that 85% can continue to develop and increase and get better and better. And the 85% is very important to have so the person is actually having some sense of enjoyment or some sense of pleasure out of the learning experience. Within this 85% rule and including a lot of practice, one can develop the skills to develop mastery. Now, to me, the term mastery is a little bit extreme. It makes me think about perfectionism a little bit. Maybe that's my own stuff. But what I want you to think about with mastery, if you're having maybe the same challenge with that word, is think about mastery as the development of competency and capability and confidence. And with this confidence, you're more likely to take on new tasks. So the second factor for Bandura was vicarious experience. When you're able to see this, when you're able to see somebody who is like-minded, or maybe somebody within your similar skill set or within your similar, I guess, areas of life, when you're able to see somebody like that begin to have success in something, you begin to have this vicarious experience of confidence within the potential of you being able to do the same thing. I had an interesting thing for me when I was really early in my sobriety, and I would go to birthday nights and somebody would stand up and they would say they had 20 years of sobriety, or they had 15 years of sobriety, or 10 years of sobriety, or even 1 year sobriety. I would have this deep sense of disdain toward them. And it was actually, this sense of, because it felt like it was impossible. So I was like, how dare them lie to everybody in this room? But when I would hear somebody say that they had a month of sobriety, or they even had 90 days of sobriety, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I could believe it. It felt real. I felt connected to that person. It felt encouraging to me. It felt like maybe I could do it myself. So surrounding yourself, first of all, around like-minded individuals and people that you want kind of what they're achieving as well is important, but also making sure that you're not comparing in a way that's too far outstretched. You're not comparing yourself to, metaphorically, that person with 20 years. You're looking at the person with 1 month, and you're living vicariously through that experience to build confidence within your own potential. Factor 3 for Bandura was social persuasion. A lot of people or parents are know this. You want to give positive feedback, right? And you really want to, more than give positive feedback, you want to give positive feedback on particular skill sets and highlight those skill sets that you see in somebody. Research shows that people receive dopamine surges when they hear something that they believe or want to believe. So if they want to have this belief within themselves that they're skilled in a certain area and somebody says, "You are skilled in that area," they receive a dopamine surge off of that. So it's more than just being positive and that sort of thing and doing this thing because you're supposed to do it because it's nice. It literally helps a person begin to develop that belief. It's essentially sowing a seed and watering it with compliments toward that particular skill set. This is where speaking life into somebody has real world application. So the fourth factor for Bandura was emotional and physiological states. This is the perception of feelings and fears and insecurities. When I say perception, perception is important because you can perceive a certain physiological state where one person perceives it as anxiety and then another person perceives it as excitement. They're the same feeling, they're very similar in nature. One says, okay, this is an opportunity. I can realize that I'm having this feeling in me because I'm excited about the opportunity because it's extremely important to me to succeed in the opportunity. So I'm having this feeling. Another person could be like, yeah, it's super important to me. So I don't want to do it. So it's too scary. Let's not even try it. So perception is very important in how you begin to cue some of these feelings that your body tells you that you're having. Okay, so let's get into achievement. The first point here within achievement is becoming a better version of yourself, thriving and achieving potential and highlighted, understood, used talent and vision. This is what Maslow calls self-actualization as a primary motivator for esteem and expressed creativity, and Glasser considered the power need. In achievement, there is a sense, at least initially, that value is being attained through the evidence of success. The reason I say initially is that achievement seems to have an expiration date for many people. I theorize the reason why there is this expiration date on achievement. I think that there's some sort of internal barometer that tries to help us push past plateaus. So when we've done things and when we have achieved something, we can kind of get fat on that achievement. We can kind of plateau on that achievement and just get real comfortable. I think there's this internal barometer that says, no, no, that's not enough. Go find something new or build off of this thing that you've already developed. So the last pillar here is higher awareness. This is the counterbalance to achievement with humility, gratitude, and awe. I'm probably the only one that this happens to. But if I get fat on achievement, there tends to be this ego thing, this thing of arrogance. And then all of a sudden, for me, especially being an addict, my sobriety is in a whole lot of threat. I can become real cocky, real confident, real sort of haughty about my skill set. But this higher awareness component smashes that. It helps bring out humility, which is this great counterbalance to, because you need success, you need achievement, but you can't get too full of yourself with it. You need some balance to that. Higher awareness helps with a sense of being connected, which helps you feel grateful. And also awe, the sense of goosebumps, right? Human connection, connection to the earth, connection to the waves, connection to this higher being, all these sort of things. That's a goosebumps thing. That's awe. Point 2 is self/ego is willingly surrendered for a higher purpose and acts of service. So it is these acts of service that also pulls you outside of yourself a little bit. There's a careful balance because you don't want to be codependent and you don't want to be doing a bunch of things just to avoid your own stuff. But You do want to be doing acts of service, again, as this sense of humility. It's very important to be able to surrender yourself in your ego. There's going to be another video on my channel here called Surrender to Win. And I'm really going to hone in the importance of surrendering. And that's coming from a combat veteran. So I think it's very important. And the last point within higher awareness is strength and faith and or connection to spirituality and the world around us. So there's a connection. You have a connection to yourself. It's relatively easy to connect to your children or something like that, or somebody, within this sphere, this first circle or this first layer. But then when you go another layer out, it's a little bit harder to connect. And then you go another layer out and it's a little bit harder to connect. And then you go another layer out and it's a little bit harder to connect, or maybe impossible to connect, depending on where you are within your own higher awareness and your spirituality. But being able to connect to a spirituality, being able to find a sense of faith, being able to get connected with your faith system is highly important. Within higher awareness, there is an openness to spirituality. There is an openness and a connectedness to things outside of yourself. There's also a sense of certainty that can paradoxically be built within the uncertainty of it, which is very strange. You're very uncertain, like faith, the structure of faith foundationally has a lot of uncertainty within it. There will be some people that really don't like that I just said that, but that's why we call it faith, is because of the uncertainty. Nonetheless, you can lean into that certainty and begin to evolve a certainty within yourself, within the uncertainty. So there's this weird paradoxical nature within higher awareness. Higher awareness has this great element of challenging your analytical thinking, which is always a good way to grow. Here, synchronicity avails itself. It's really beautiful work. It's basically being able to attune to things that, like, wow, did that just happen? I can't believe these two things just happened in order to line up to make this perfect situation arise from it.